Just say Happy New Year. This is crazy.
Yeah. No, I know. The year is flying by. It's like before we know it, it'll be Christmas.
I know. I know. Some people in. Okay. If I just wanted to tell everybody, good afternoon, everyone. We're going to get started in a few minutes. Please, I'm very excited to have my esteemed guest, Ms. Kimberly Chopra, VP of Recruitment for Robert Half. And one of the things that I do at St. John's, I'm the Associate Director for Alumni Career Services. And based upon your request and the need and the change in market, I said, let me get an expert to talk to you guys who are job seekers, inside tips, tools, whatever we can do to help you on your career journey, your job journey. And thank you guys so much for being here at 12 noon in the afternoon. I know you guys are probably want to enjoy the afternoon, and it's a nice day so far before it gets extremely cold. But I definitely wanted to give you guys this opportunity to meet Kimberly, talk to Kimberly. I'm just going to ask Kimberly just a couple of questions, and then I'm going to turn it over to her. And then after that, we're going to turn it over to you so that she could actually hear some of the questions that you have for her. Please ask her as many questions as you want. She's extremely busy, very hard to get her. So I'm very grateful to have her come on this afternoon. And Kimberly, thank you so much for joining us. As everybody comes into the live, my first question for you is share just a little bit about your role at Robert Half, and tell us a little bit about your career journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Definitely excited to be here. But yeah, I mean, I've been with Robert Half now for almost 9 years. So I've been specifically on the permanent placement team. I am now a vice president of permanent placement services. So my team specifically covers permanent placements of accounting, operations, HR, administrative, customer service roles. But Robert Half in general handles basically, I always say, we really handle everything besides, healthcare specific roles or construction specific roles. Other than that, we can kind of handle everything. But yeah, I work with candidates and clients to fill different positions in the New York City area. And I always say that Robert Half is similar to a LinkedIn or an Indeed, but more so on the people side of things. So we match candidates with jobs and then jobs with candidates. And so that's really, my day to day, just kind of helping people on the market looking for new positions. Oh,
My
looks
next
like you're
question for
muted.
you, oh, sorry. My next
You're
question for
good.
you is how has the market changed? Basic, I say within the last 2 years, because I have a lot of job seekers that are like trying to really figure out when they're applying for stuff and then notice they're not getting any like responses back. Talk to them about what's happening on your angle in terms of the market and all that other stuff going on.
Yeah, so it's definitely been an interesting and tricky market the past, I would say, probably 2 years. So to go back prior to COVID, everything was kind of, pretty normal in terms of how the job market went. It would be up, it would be down. And then we saw that 2021, 2022 were very, very candidate driven. It was a candidate driven market. So I used to always say that candidates at that time could walk into a company and kind of say exactly what they wanted package wise, and the client would give it to them. Then it started to shift in, I would say, mid 2023 towards what we call a client's market, where the companies who are hiring have the leverage. So for about 2.5 years, it's kind of trended in that direction, where because there have been a lot of layoffs in the market, there have been budget cuts, there have been funding cuts. There are a lot of candidates looking for jobs and not as many jobs available. So that makes it very competitive. There are a ton of people applying to the same positions. And so that's made it very, very tricky and made the market a little bit slower. So processes are taking a little bit longer. Clients have the leverage. But the good news is that in the past, I would say 2 to 3 weeks, we've seen a shift where clients are moving. There are jobs available. We were so slow for so long. And now we have this uptick where all these companies are coming to us and saying, hey, we're kind of finally ready to hire for whatever reason that may be. So the market seems to be moving in the right direction, which is definitely a good sign.
Thank you. And my last question to you is we have a lot of alumni at St. John's University, other universities, and how should they prepare to meet a recruiter such as yourself, working with Robert Half? Just share just a little bit about the process of how you guys help your clients.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think one of the biggest things to prepare is to always have your resume fully up to date. So when we are working with candidates, when when the market is good, especially the market tends to move pretty fast. So because we have the direct line to the hiring manager, if we have a role available, we try to move very quickly. So I always say before meeting with myself or with any other recruiter, you want to have your resume fully up to date. Sometimes people are only passively looking, they're not necessarily actively on the market, but you still want to have your resume up to date. That way when you meet with a recruiter, they have your current information, and as soon as there's a position available to kind of move forward with, then you're ready to go. So always having your resume up to date, and really just being ready to speak about your experience. When you meet with a recruiter, they want to go through all of the different roles that you've had, reasons for leaving each position, kind of understanding your commuting preferences, your salary preferences. So just having all of that ready to go for the conversation.
That's great. So, Kimberly, what I'm going to do now, I'm going to turn it over to you
Yeah.
to give everybody just a detailed overview of why Robert Half would be an excellent option for them to use in their career search and their career journey.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think it goes back to, the fact that Robert Half, so we're the largest staffing agency. We have offices all throughout the US, we have offices all throughout the world. And I think it's a really good way to kind of have that direct line to the hiring manager, because as the recruiters, we're working with these companies to understand exactly what they're looking for, whether that's technical skill set or a culture fit for their company, and we're able to make that direct match. So when I'm working with my candidates, there are many times where I'll know, okay, right away, this person would be great for this company, and this client might be great for this candidate. So it's nice to, instead of kind of sending your resume out into the void and applying to a bunch of different positions, work with someone like myself or any other recruiter at Robert Half who can talk to you about specific roles, understand exactly how you fit into that role, and then present your background to a hiring manager to show them, hey, this person would be great for your position, rather than being submitted with 1,000 other people and kind of just, keeping it up to luck. Whereas we can advocate for you as the recruiter.
And
Go ahead.
everybody's worried about, go ahead. Someone had a quick question. Go ahead. Ask your question. I mean to interrupt. Go ahead. I thought someone had a question. If you do have a question, just say your name and then you could feel free to answer, ask your question. Okay. I'm gonna ask my question. AI is a big thing, Nicole. And Kimberly, I'm so sorry. What's your thoughts about using AI tools? Everybody's worried about AI agents taking over the workforce. We have people that are they're mid 40s, mid 50s, thinking about career changing. They're worried about living in a digital economy. What's your thoughts about that?
Yeah, so it's tricky. I have mixed feelings on AI. I think that it can obviously be beneficial for a lot of different things, but I think for recruitment specifically, it is a hindrance because we've always had ATS systems that have filtered candidates out, but I think that AI is probably doing that a little bit more now because it's so advanced and so specific. So I think that it's problematic in the sense that when me as the recruiter, if I'm speaking to a candidate who might be looking for a career change or, might not on paper look like the exact right fit for a company, but I've spoken with that candidate and I know that they actually are the perfect fit, I can talk to the hiring manager about that. Whereas if that same candidate were to apply through an AI generated ATS system, that candidate is probably going to get filtered out based on certain keywords that might not be on their resume. So I think that it creates a little bit of a hindrance because great candidates are being filtered out. So I think that as it advances, hopefully they will change it a little bit to make the filters not as strict. But I think that that's why recruitment should be a people business. So whether it's myself, another agency, another recruiter, I think it's good to always make those people connections, because at the end of the day, we're the ones who can advocate for you as the human rather than being filtered out by the AI.
I like that. And next question I have for you is, how can people stand out? Because I talk to people all the time. Um, they work on their resume. They're on different types of platforms and stuff like that. Give people some tips. Because I remember I had asked you, what are some tips, 3 tips that you have for people to help them stand out? Because the market is so crowded,
Yes.
and help people in terms of, hey, I'm a person in the market. How do I stand out in the crowd, maybe online or reaching out to people or maybe networking?
Yeah. No, great question. I think, and I actually wrote some notes down for this, but I think one of the biggest things that I tell my candidates when I meet with them is you should have your resume not necessarily look like a job description. Your resume should have your accomplishments in each role, the different projects that you've worked on, numerical data. If you've overseen a team, how many people did you oversee? Let's say you were processing invoices. How many invoices did you process per month? You want to have that specific information rather than kind of having the resume read as a job description, because when you're applying to different positions and you know that you're up against hundreds of other people who probably have similar backgrounds, your accomplishments are what are going to stand out rather than just your standard line by line job description responsibilities. So I think that's a big one. um, I think another thing is tailoring a resume to a specific role. So although it takes a little bit more work and it is a little bit more frustrating, hiring managers spend a very small amount of time on a resume. So you want to have your most relevant information for that specific position at the top of your resume. So this could mean, you're just manipulating your bullets around on the resume to have the most prevalent ones for that specific position at the top. Or, you're moving some skills around to show your core competencies at the top that might be related to that job description that you're applying for. So I think making sure that you tailor it specifically to the position that you're applying to is big. Um, and also making sure that you're not leaving out key information. So on your resume, sometimes I'll meet with candidates and I'll ask them about the software that they've used in different positions, and they'll tell me all about their knowledge and even implementation experience with a specific software, but it's not listed on their resume. So going back to the AI question, you want to make sure that all of that information is there, because that's what's going to make you stand out, and that's what's going to probably to move the needle in your direction if you have that skill set listed. Um, and then, of course, once it gets to an interview, making sure that you're fully prepared for an interview. So you wouldn't believe the amount of times that I speak with clients who tell me that a candidate wasn't prepared for an interview, didn't necessarily know anything about the company specifically or why they wanted to work for that company specifically. And that might sound simple, but it can be kind of the deal breaker between somebody who moves forward in a process and who doesn't, kind of having that reason why you want to work for the company and not just like a generic answer.
Thank you. And
Yeah.
to follow up on that question, what are some of the worst resumes you've ever seen? And how long should your resume be? Because I've seen some that are 2 pages, 3 pages. Some people are
Yeah.
have multiple degrees. Help answer that question in terms of what are some of the worst resumes you've seen that clients thought they were amazing, and you have to go, I don't like this resume, you need to redo it.
Yeah, no, I think that so I always say resumes are subjective, so my version of how a resume should look might be different than a way that another hiring manager thinks it should look. But I think there are a few things that should definitely be on a resume. So, for instance, I think that if you don't include your phone number and your address on your resume, that's going to be a big hindrance, because a recruiter like myself, if I get a resume and I don't see where this person lives or I don't have a way to contact them, there's really nothing that I can do, because I have to understand, is this person in my territory? And also, how am I going to get in touch with them? So that's for a recruiter or a hiring manager. That's super important to make sure that that information is on there. Sometimes I'll see resumes come through and they'll have, a photo on there, or they'll have some crazy formatting. I say, Ditch the photos. You don't need to have the photos on there. And formatting wise, you want to really keep it simple. So although you might think, oh, if I bold these certain words or if I put some color in there, it might grab someone's attention. All it's going to do is actually distract from the important information, which is your technical skills and what you do on a day to day. So my suggestion is always to have your professional experience at the top, your education under that, and then your skills when it comes to, let's say, bilingual skills or software skills under the education. So experience, education, skills, super simple. But I don't ever encourage anyone to shorten their resume to be only one page because I think that that's an outdated mindset from when we were printing resumes out and stapling them in order to like not lose the next page. But if you're somebody who has 10 plus years of experience, I personally would rather see all of that experience and then tailor it from there rather than you leave anything out just to keep it under one page.
That's good advice. And what advice do you have for people who have just gotten laid off? Because getting laid off is tough. Starbucks is just letting go so many people. They're closing so many stores. I'm gonna miss my chai lattes. And plus, a lot of employers, a lot of the staff found out via email. Help people in terms of I just got laid off. I want to reach out to agencies such as Robert Half. What should people do in that scenario?
Yeah. So, first things first, obviously, like I said, update the resume. Second thing, immediately you should put yourself open to work on LinkedIn because that's how recruiters know to reach out to you. So, for instance, on my end of things, when I'm going into the back end of my LinkedIn recruiter portal, the first candidates that come up for me when I'm doing a search are the open to work candidates. So if you did just get laid off, you want to make it known that you are open to work. That's going to give recruiters the understanding that they can reach out to you, that you're not just passively looking, you are actively on the market. So that's huge. Making yourself open to work, updating your resume, getting it over to as many agencies as you can, because although working at Robert Half, I would love to always be the one to place my candidates. I do say there are so many agencies in New York City who work with different clients. Sometimes they have exclusive contracts with clients that we don't have. So I say send your resume to as many recruiters as you can, and that will definitely help you kind of open some doors.
And last question I have for you is networking, the power of networking, either online or in person. Can you share a little, some tips about effective ways to network? Because sometimes people get intimidated by it. I've recommended a lot to the alumni to start, networking within our school, our college, and also LinkedIn. And share some of your tips that you think will work for candidates in terms of networking.
Yeah. I mean, I think on LinkedIn, especially, we're such a social media driven world, and it seems that LinkedIn is kind of going towards that model as well. So I think that if you're active on LinkedIn and kind of what's the word, connecting with people who are in your industry, connecting with people who are in the have the same skill set as you, I think that that's a really good way to network on LinkedIn, kind of commenting on different posts that might be up, joining different groups on LinkedIn, and going to events, because at the end of the day, the connections that you have in person are really going to be what sets you apart than just applying to all these different positions online. So I think that even if it's a little bit uncomfortable, it's definitely a good thing to get to know people in your industry, because if somebody that you meet ends up being a hiring manager at another company, that's a perfect way for you to hopefully get in with that company as well if you have a good relationship with that person. But I think also networking, like I said, with as many recruiters as you can, because the candidates who I meet with, I'm always thinking of them for different positions that come up. So even if somebody I haven't spoken to in 2 years, they might come up on my LinkedIn feed and I have a role open, I immediately am like, oh, well, maybe this person would be good for this role. So just kind of keeping those connections and just, staying in touch with people in your industry is a great thing to do.
Kimberly, someone had a question. So, do you recommend the open work toggle in LinkedIn that's only visible to recruiters, or creating a banner that appears on the profile picture?
So if you are currently employed, and you are looking for a new role, but you don't want your current employer to know, then I would say definitely just do the open to work specifically for recruiters only. But if you are not employed currently, then you want to have the banner on there because that means that everyone can see it. So even if, a recruiter sees it at an agency, that's great, but you also want hiring managers to be able to see that you're looking as well, because you might have the background that they're looking for, and them not being a recruiter specifically, they wouldn't be able to see that you're open to work. So if you're currently employed, only for recruiters. If you are not employed, definitely have the banner up.
That's a great question. Does anyone else have a great question? I have one more question. How should candidates navigate networking on LinkedIn um, when alumni and accomplished people in our field don't respond? That's a good question.
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, it's tough because obviously you don't know who is going to respond and who's not. So I would say definitely, always do the reach out, just to see if somebody is going to respond. So, connect with them, comment on their post, engage with their activity. They might be somebody who's just not active on LinkedIn, so they might just not see your reach out. But otherwise, I would say just engage with their content. That way you kind of are top of mind for them when you are reaching out. They recognize your name. So I think that that would be a big one.
Another question is, can you let us know if there are any hybrid jobs? If so, by industry? That's from Rosa. Rosa, what type of industry are you interested in? I'm curious.
Thank you. Oh, can you hear me? Hello? Can
Yeah,
you hear
we
me?
can hear
Yes, I
you.
can hear you.
Hi, I'm an executive assistant, and Kimberly, I've been working a long time. I'll share my story. I was part of a massive layoff. I was at the firm for over 18 years, and I've been working a really long time. So ageism has been something I'm concerned about, and I was very content where I was, but I understand it was a business decision. And I'm an executive assistant. I'm in the process of the transition. Um, I want to also ask you, besides that one question, I didn't have a LinkedIn account, so I've already been applying. I'm getting some. I want to connect with you afterwards
Yeah.
too. That would be great. So my question is, during COVID, I was, we were remote. Then it was the hybrid, and then of course this happened to me. I liked at least working from home 1 day a week. So I'm asking you, are there some hybrid jobs, or is it all remote? Or I mean, I see so many things. So I just really want to know what's out there right now.
Yeah. No, that's a great question. And actually that brings up a really good point. So as an agency, there are remote roles out there. The agency world, we don't see them too often. Reason being is that companies are the ones that pay us to fill their positions. So if they have a remote role and they post it, because remote is so rare, they're getting thousands of applications. And the only time that they would come to us for that position specifically would be if they're just inundated with resumes and they're like, Kim, we can't even go through this ourselves. We need you to send us your top 5 people, and then we'll choose from that. But typically what we're seeing is more of a hybrid or in-office schedule. And by hybrid, I mean like 3 to 4 days in. Administrative roles, we are seeing a bigger trend going back to 5 days in the office, because if the CEOs or if the rest of the employees are there, they want their administrative team to be in the office. So I would say for executive assistant positions specifically, we're seeing probably 4 to 5 days in. It's not to say that it's impossible to find less, because we do get clients in that are only doing 2 to 3 days. But I would say the average that we're seeing is 4 to 5 days on site. And that kind of goes with all of the roles that I fill. We're seeing more in office roles than hybrid roles. But the tricky part is that with the clients who come to us and they're looking to fill these 5 day in office positions, we kind of have to let them know, hey, the candidate pool for that is a little bit smaller because there are so many candidates who are looking for only hybrid or remote. So we're in that period of time now where we have to find that middle ground. But to answer your question, there are hybrid roles out there. It's just not as frequent that we're seeing them as the in-office roles.
Okay, no, that's good to know. And as I just kind of also added and mentioned to you, I didn't have a LinkedIn account. I have gone in there. I I see how people have like 500 connections. I'm like, how am I going to start 500 connections? And I've just started a profile, but I feel like I'm moving along where I am right now. And I just got off the phone with a recruiter, like
Mhm.
yourself. She said my extensive experience being in one job, that's very good because they're looking for loyalty. Is that right, Kimberly? Is it that's a plus being at a company or a job for a long time than jumping around a lot? I everyone here should probably get that answer as well. It's good for everyone to know it as myself. I'm asking
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, I think that companies are always looking for longevity and loyalty. So being at your company for a long time is a huge plus. That's not going to work against you in any way. It's definitely only going to be a positive for your job search because we have seen in the past couple of years that people have been a little bit more jumpy for whatever reason that is, whether they have been laid off or whether they chose to make these moves. But again, that comes to that middle ground that we're looking for with clients because clients will come to us and say, hey, we only want to see candidates who have been with their jobs for, let's call it 4+ years at each role. Now, prior to COVID, that was a lot easier to find. And then post COVID, that's harder to find because we had the great resignation in 2021, 2022. So people were making moves because they wanted to. But then we saw that a lot of people were laid off, and they didn't have the choice. So we have had to say as the recruiter and had to advocate for a lot of our candidates of, hey, just because they made these moves, it's not because they are not loyal or that they didn't want to be at that company long term, but because of everything going on in the world, they had to make those decisions. So I think that in your situation, it definitely works as a positive for you because companies are always looking for that.
Okay. And the LinkedIn, I know there's so many tricks to that. I don't know. Do I have to pay a membership for that? That's another thing I will ask you.
Yeah,
If you can educate me a little bit.
I don't think so.
I don't
To
think for
learn,
LinkedIn.
yeah, to learn how to use LinkedIn. Rose, that's your question. You want to learn how to use it
To
better?
be like active in there, I don't know if you want to reach out to people, you really need to have pay a membership for that. Is that right? I need to get educated on about LinkedIn. So I'm really a novice here. So I will ask here your knowledge
Yeah.
and
I'm not
assistance.
100% sure because I'm not 100% sure how it works with LinkedIn as far as the different tiers of membership. I think there is a free membership, but to your point, if you want to, connect with a lot of different people and send a lot of messages, I think you would need the upper tier, but I don't know for sure. But I think just having a LinkedIn in general is a good thing. You want to have a LinkedIn that's fully updated, and this is kind of a great segue into that as well. Anybody who is on the market, and even if you're not, you will be probably at some point. You want to have a LinkedIn, you want to have a photo on your LinkedIn, and you want to have your experience, your skills, and your education fully updated. Because we do get a lot of clients who will ask us as we're submitting candidates, they'll say, can you also include their LinkedIn? Because they want to make sure that the LinkedIn matches up with the resume. So it's always important to have it.
Oh, really? That was the other thing. Are they really asking, the clients are asking for a LinkedIn profile
Yeah.
account?
Not all of them, but a lot of them do.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm.
No, thanks for sharing that, Kimberly. I appreciate that.
Rose, those are
Absolutely.
great questions. Thank you for participating. That's great. Good
Oh,
questions.
no, you're welcome, Roger. Alumni. We got to be together. We're family.
I like it. You're right. Another question, Kimberly, for you is: would you recommend that older candidates include all their experiences, even if it's 20+ years of experience?
So that's a good question. And I think it depends on what your experience includes. So if it's relevant to your current experience and the current role that you're looking for, then yes, I say keep it on the resume. If it's not aligned, like so, I'll have candidates who let's say they were in customer service for 10 years and then they transitioned into accounts payable, let's say. And now they're an accounts payable manager and that's what they're looking for. At that point, I might say, get rid of the customer service experience because it was so long ago and it's not relevant to your current job search. But that's not to say in every single case I would say that because if the customer service job was in an industry that we're then submitting the candidate for, I might want it on there because that will show the client who is in the same industry that this person has industry knowledge. So I say always have your experience on the resume when you first send it to the recruiter. And then the recruiter will let you know what to kind of manipulate, what to take off, what to highlight as you're applying to specific roles. But the only way for us to know which industries, we should submit you to is to know what you've done fully. So I say when you first apply to a recruiter, have everything on there and then kind of whittle it down from there.
I have one. Joel asks, have you seen an uptake in hiring for HR roles for reaching graduates, and what are the best ways to enter this industry? So Joel wants to get into HR.
Yeah. So we have seen an uptick in HR roles, but a lot of times with more entry level positions, it's trickier for a recruiting agency to fill those positions because clients aren't as likely to come to us if they don't necessarily need a ton of experience for that role. So if it's a role where let's call it an HR coordinator, and they're like, hey, we're open to entry level candidates, it's not often that they'll use an agency to fill that position because they can just post an ad on Indeed and get the same candidates. So there has been an uptick. I have seen a lot of those positions posted, but there haven't been too many coming to an agency. But I think that in order to kind of highlight your experience and your skill set when you're applying to them on your own, again, you want to put as much relevant experience at the top as you can. And if you're a recent grad, if you haven't had too much actual work experience, put at the top of your resume your education. That's the only time I say to have your education at the top is if you're a recent grad, entry level, education at the top, so it shows what your degree is in, and then any relevant classes that you may have taken, put those on there as well. If you have certifications in HR, if you are preparing to join, a certain HR group, add that to the bottom of your resume as well. Anything that would be relevant, you want to have on there because that will just only help push things in your direction.
Cool. I have one more question. This is from Joanne. Are there any specific AI tools that are needed for the financial services industry, like example Power BI glasses, or that a candidate should have? How important is to have AI tools to boost your candidacy if you're interested in the finance industry? In terms of employers, are they looking for that? Okay. That's the question from Joanne.
Yeah, that's a great question. To be honest with you, I haven't seen too many clients asking for AI specific software just yet. So that could change, but I really haven't seen it. I do see now the roles that I work on specifically are more of your operational accounting roles. So your accounts payable, accounts receivable, bookkeeper, billing, payroll. But I say that clients are typically asking for more like ERP system experience rather than AI specific. And again, that could change. And I think if you do have AI knowledge, it's great to have it on your resume. But I wouldn't say that clients are looking for that just yet.
I'm trying to see if there's any more questions. Trying to see. Oh, I have a question. Interviewing. A lot of people get nervous, Kimberly, about interviewing, and some people interview well, and some people don't. Do you have any tips to help our alumni and plus our guests and future candidates about interview tips that they need to do beyond digital, maybe on Zoom and in person?
Yes, that's actually a really great question. And this is huge because the interview is the first impression, and they say first impressions are everything. So, in person interviews, I say always you want to get there 10 minutes early. You want to dress business professional, even if you know that the company is a business casual environment. Dress business professional always. Show up with a couple copies of your resume in hand because you might meet with a couple different people and you want to have those resumes readily available to kind of hand out. And again, to the point that I made earlier, in the event was making sure that you research the company so you have reasons to talk about why you want to work for that company specifically. That's huge. But on the other side of it too is the virtual interviews. So this is where things can sometimes get tricky if you're not prepared. A lot of our clients use Microsoft Teams as their first interview avenue, and there are many times where candidates will get on the call and they haven't tested their microphone, they haven't tested their video. Now they got on the call and they're trying to figure this out all last minute. And that to the client shows that you're not prepared. So although, your teams may have worked the day before, you always want to make sure that about 10 minutes before your interview, you jump on, you test the camera, you make sure there's nothing crazy in the background. You put up one of these backgrounds behind you so that you don't have anything crazy going on behind you, and you make sure that your microphone is working, because the last thing that you want is for the client to be like, "Can you hear me?" They can't hear you, you can't hear them, they can't see you. That's huge. Um, and another thing too is to have questions prepared for the interviewer. So although they might answer a lot of the questions that you have during the interview, you never want to leave an interview without having something to ask them, because they will always ask, "Do you have any questions?" And if you say no, it kind of seems like you're not interested in the role. So the questions should be thoughtful. They should be more in depth than just kind of like your standard, "What's the next step in the process" type of question. So some that I recommend are asking, what does the ideal candidate look like for this position? Asking what would be expected in the first 30, 60, 90 days for this role, if once the candidate is hired, so that they kind of lay that out for you and it shows that you're looking ahead. And the big one that I think is kind of like a reverse psychology question is asking the interviewer, "Is there anything in my background that would cause you to hesitate in moving forward with me?" And the reason you want to ask this question is because if there is something that comes to mind for them, they can address it with you right on the spot. Rather than going back to their team saying, "Hey, I really like this person, but I'm unsure about XYZ," and it becoming a back and forth, they can address it with you right away. But also, if you ask that question and they can't think of anything that's, making them hesitate to move forward with you, why wouldn't they move forward with you? So it kind of creates that reverse psychology for them where they're like, "Yeah, there's really nothing that would make me hesitate. So yeah, this person looks great for the role." So I think that's a really good question to ask. I also say that if you're interviewing through an agency, so if I'm the one who sets the call up for you, I always say, don't talk about benefits, don't talk about in-office schedule, don't talk about salary, just focus on the role at hand and the opportunity. That way, I, as the recruiter, can negotiate those things for you on the back end, and it doesn't put a bad taste in the interviewer's mouth. And the last thing I would say about that is when you're interviewing with a company, remember, at the end of the day, it's just a human to human conversation. You're interviewing them as much as they're interviewing you, because you need to know that this is a company that you're going to want to stay at. So don't think of it as, "Oh, I'm going in to meet with this HR manager and, it's scary." It's not, because you are just as much in the driver's seat as they are.
That's a great answer. I'm going to use that, Kimberly. Watch, I'm going to use that as soon as for all my appointments. I'm using that verbatim. And I'll quote you
Yeah,
too when I use it.
perfect.
Um, Joanna says, "I'm currently an interpreter and I would like to transition into a new role slash profession. I would like to work with a recruiter to help me navigate industries and roles I may be a good candidate for. Help me with help me with my resume, educate myself, and how to put my best foot forward. I've been working for myself for the past 13 years. How do I connect with your agency? And what's the process like?" I know it's a lot. So she's basically doing a role transfer, as in she's currently an interpreter.
Yes. So career transitions are a little bit harder for us to help out with as an agency on the permanent side. We do have a contract team that handles temp and temp to perm roles, and that is where we see a little bit more flexibility from our clients in terms of a career transition. So on the permanent side, clients are coming to us for a specific skill set. So it's harder for me to help somebody who's looking to transition. I see it a lot with teachers who are looking to transition out of teaching into a more corporate environment. It's more difficult for me because although there are transferable skills, most of the time the client is looking for specific technical skills that they're paying a fee for. But I always recommend that that person speak with our contract team, because on the contract side, the clients are more willing to take the risk to see if that person would be a good fit for the role because they're not locked in. So I always then introduce that person to my contract and contract to perm team to see what they have available, just because I never like to overpromise and underdeliver. So if I know that I'm not going to be able to help, I want to put you in touch with somebody who might be able to. So I would say send your resume to me for sure. And then whether it's myself who would be able to help, great. If not, I would send it to another team member who could jump in.
So what we're doing here at St. John's, and the way I met Kimberly was through LinkedIn. I sent her a very nice email, and I asked her if she has time to chat. So that's how this whole connection happened. And come to find out, I didn't know that Kimberly is it the who's the gentleman that I found out that's on your team that actually goes to St. John?
Yes,
Uh,
Rich.
right, and I didn't know
Yes.
that, and he was like, "Oh my God, Roger, you're saying that." So the instant bond happened. So LinkedIn actually does work in terms
Yes.
of bringing forth connections. Here's another question I have, Kimberly, is um, Dana. I want to talk. This is from Dana. She says, once you develop a relationship with someone at a recruiting agency like yourself, what would you say is a recommended level of frequency of contact? She's afraid of. I don't want my resume to get lost in the shuffle. In addition, not sure how many resumes get sorted and logged and received. Dana is actually St. John's alum. She's one of my amazing alumni that's actually looking for something in financial services. So she wants to know, how does working with someone like Robert Hatton yourself make her, once she submits her resume, how would she feel if so you won't get forgotten? So basically, your resume gets
Yeah.
submitted. How do people feel if we haven't heard anything, and people also feel forgotten?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think that that's a big thing that we see often. I think that two-part answer. So one, I think that reaching once you have an interview with the recruiter at the agency, I would say maybe every 2 weeks, sending a note if you haven't heard anything of, hey, just checking in to see if there's anything available. If you send your resume and you haven't heard anything, you haven't actually had the conversation with the recruiter, that could mean that your resume got lost in their inbox because they should at least say to you whether they set up an interview with you, or they send your resume to somebody else on the team, or they tell you, hey, your background just isn't something that we work with, and giving you that answer. But so I would say in that case, follow up just a couple days later. But once you're already working with a recruiter and you have that established relationship, I would say probably about every 2 weeks. The issue becomes, and I actually spoke with a candidate yesterday who said to me, Kim, I've been applying to all these positions on Robert Half's website. I have a relationship with a recruiter in Jersey. I haven't heard anything. And I said to her, unfortunately, the market has just been so slow. So a recruiter can only reach out to you if they have a role that's available, and not only that's available, but a role that matches your background, is aligned with your salary targets, is aligned with your in-office schedule targets, and that your background is aligned with what the client is looking for. So in some months, of the market during the year, we'll have a ton of roles, and you'll be hearing from someone like me every day of, hey, I have this new role, I have this new role, do you want to be submitted to this, do you want to be submitted to that? But when the market is slow, we might just not have the roles that to work on. So we have your information ready to go as soon as the positions become available, but we can only reach out if there is a position available.
Okay.
Yeah.
And someone asked Kimberly if you could share your information so that a lot of people love to get in contact with you to send their resumes to you.
Oh,
If
absolutely.
as a second option, I know for St. John's, I'm having the alumni send me their resumes, and I forward them to Kimberly to see to get you guys connected with Robert Half as well as another avenue. Amazing, they're a major agency that have a huge wide reach in various industries. Kimberly, how many industries do you guys work with in terms of let everybody know in terms of the scope of the industries you guys work with?
Yeah, we work with all industries. So we're not industry specific. It could be retail, healthcare, nonprofit, financial services, you name it. We break everything out by what we call functional role. So, like I said in the beginning, my team specifically handles everything operational accounting, operations when it comes to, let's say, operations manager, director of operations, things like that, administrative roles, HR, customer service, and sales. And then we have a team that handles finance roles. So think staff accountant and above. Then we have a team that handles tech positions, so anything IT related. We have a team that handles legal positions. And then we also have a creative team. So a team that handles anything like marketing, graphic designers, things like that. And we do it on both the temp and the perm side. So we have a dedicated team for permanent roles in those areas, and then we have dedicated teams for temporary roles in those areas. So it's not broken down by industry. Like I said, it can be those roles in any different industry.
I have a question from Miriam. She says, I've been doing freelance consultancy and I don't want to take too much space about my resume, but if it's not included, do I just do one bullet point? Also, leadership roles where should they sit on their resume? I think her question is she don't want to make her resume too long, but she does have as a freelance experience as a consultant. Should that just be one bullet point? And she also has a ton of leadership roles. Where should that sit on the resume?
So I think that again, it kind of goes, I'd never like to say anything concrete when it comes to resumes, just because of the fact that everything is so subjective, and for the different roles that you might be applying for, it would be different as well. But I think that if you've been doing freelance consultancy and that's your like current position that you're doing, I would say you want to have more than one bullet for that, because you want to really your current position should be the one that has like the most in-depth information there, because that's going to be most important for the role that you're applying for if you've been doing it for a good amount of time. So of course, if you just started a position and you're like, this is not the right role for me, you've only been there for a short period of time, that's a different story. You might only have a couple of bullets. But if it's something that you've been doing for a while, that's where you want to have like the bulk of your experience. So I would say multiple bullets there. And then as far as any board or leadership roles, I would have those at the bottom under, you can have a section that's like board and membership, and you can have all of those listed under. So I would say in that case, you'd have experience, education, board and leadership positions, and then skills.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And Kimberly, these questions are amazing. For marketing, there's a question about marketing roles. This person is looking for a marketing role, and a lot of companies look for someone that has experience in agency or in-house experience. How could someone with freelance experience position themselves? They have a lot of skills and experience, but I have freelancing and some skills that are transferable. So she wants to get into marketing roles, but she has skills that are transferable into working into an ad agency. What advice would you have for this particular person?
So that's hard for me to answer, only because I don't handle marketing roles myself. So I can't say what hiring managers are necessarily looking for in that field, because I don't talk to them. I'm not in that market. So I would say what you should do in that case is definitely send that resume to me, and I'll be able to put you in touch with a person on our marketing team who would be able to talk to you about that market and what hiring managers are looking for, and whether or not they'd be able to kind of help you out with that on the recruiting side of things, or can just give you tips as to how to market yourself better with that.
Good question. I'm trying to see if there's any more questions. Did I get everybody? Okay, here's a new question. Oh, she said thank you. I have a question.
Sure.
My question is, with all the stuff that you have to do in terms of marketing yourself, interviewing, coming up with an elevator pitch, give some people some encouragement in this crazy up and down job market space that will keep them motivated and going. Because a lot of people sometimes, looking for a job can be a job in itself.
Mm-hmm.
What tips do you give people to keep going, keep motivating, even if it's not the job of their dreams, but they just need to get something just to sustain themselves?
Absolutely. So it's funny because you just said how looking for a job is a job in and of itself. And I always tell people that I'm like, really, it is. And that's why I'm employed, because at the end of the day, like it really is a full-time job to look for positions. So I would say if you're on the job search, just know that it's not you, it's the world right now. The world is just kind of, it is what it is right now. And the job market is tough. So amazing candidates are being passed over just because there is so much competition. But at the end of the day, the job that you are meant to have is the job that you will eventually get. So perfect example of this is I had a candidate who his name was Noah, and he was great. He was an accounts payable candidate, loved him, and he was always the bridesmaid, never the bride. Every position that we sent him to, he did well, the client gave good feedback, but they went with somebody else. And he kept saying to me, he's like, Kim, why wasn't this happening? We worked together for probably a year and a half. And finally, after the 11th role that I sent him to, he landed the position and he's still there and he loves it. But sometimes it's not the right position for you. And it's better that you didn't get that position, because if they don't feel you're the right fit, it's probably not where you want to be. So I would
Always the
say
bridesmaid,
keep
never the
going.
bride. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you want to just keep applying, and also be flexible too. The other thing is that I've had a ton of candidates who I've worked with, and I know what their preferences are, right? I know what their salary target is. And I'll have a role come in and it might not be perfectly aligned, but I say to them, listen, take the interview. Like, let me submit you to this position. If they're interested in you, take the interview. If you call me after the interview and you say, Kim, I hated them and I never want to speak to them again, that's okay. But I'm telling you, I think it's a great opportunity. And more often than not, the candidate will call me after the interview and they'll say, I absolutely loved the team. I'm so interested in going to a second round. And whether they get the position or not, they were just a little bit flexible, where they would have initially said, hey, listen, I'm declining this opportunity. I'm not interested. But because they took the interview and had that conversation with the client, their mind was changed and now it's a role that they're interested in. So I say keep an open mind if a recruiter reaches out.
Kimberly, we got a few more minutes. I'm going to open it up. Does anybody have any more questions, thoughts, feelings? You are getting insight and all the answers to all your questions and thoughts and feelings. Does anybody have any questions? You can unmute yourself and talk. We have 10 more minutes left.
Hi, Kimberly. This is
Hi.
Donnelly Spisa. How are you?
I'm doing
Thank
well.
you.
How are you?
Good, good. Thank you for today, and Roger as well for setting this up. I had one question. We talked a little bit about the AI selection process, and I've noticed on some of the applications at the bottom, it will indicate if you want to opt in. There'll be like a little box, and it'll ask you if you want to opt into being part of that AI selection or to opt out. And I've actually Googled it, because just to kind of get a perspective, and I've seen both sides where, if you don't do it, are you at a disadvantage because, you're not going part of the process and they may overlook your resume. But at the same time, what you said before earlier resonated with me, which is, you might be in the AI process, but if you're pivoting a little or don't have certain keywords, you might also not get selected, because it might be a little more narrow-minded. So should we opt in or opt out if they request that?
That's a really good question. And to be honest with you, I haven't seen that myself. So I don't know the exact right answer to that. What I will say is that I feel that AI is still in its infancy. So I think either way, to your point, you might opt in and be filtered out because the AI is filtering. But if you don't opt in, then maybe the company is passing because they're not having somebody actually review the resumes and it is going through just the AI filter. I think
Right.
it's probably a case by case basis with the company and how they're using AI specifically. But I can't say for sure, and I'm sorry.
Yeah, that
I
makes
don't have an
sense though.
answer.
I think I think the people to people, like you were saying earlier, is so important because it gives you an opportunity to tell your story.
Yeah,
And when you've got hundreds of resumes going through, you just kind of could get passed over, So thank
absolutely.
you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Anyone else has one more question? We got 5 minutes left.
I have a hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good afternoon. I'm sorry, I'm a little sick, so
Oh, that's
if
okay. I hope you feel
yeah,
better.
thank you. But first off, Kimberly and Roger, thank you guys so much for this. We really appreciate it. One question I do have is, what are some tips you have for answering the question, tell me about yourself? Because I know that it's one of like the most important questions when it comes to interviews. It's basically like your first impression. So I just want to write down some tips and, get my tell me about yourself pitch together.
Yes. No, that is actually an amazing question. So the tell me about yourself question is tricky, right? Because it's like I have for myself, I have 32 years that I could talk about. But what you really want to do is you want to keep it to 90 seconds to 2 minutes max. And you really want to keep it relevant to the position that you're interviewing for. So I always say that you want to say, so if it were me, right, interviewing for Robert Half, I would probably say something like, my name's Kim Chorba. I graduated in 2015 from SUNY Oneonta with a degree in mass communications. For the last 9 years, I've been with Robert Half. And then I would just kind of list specific things that I do at Robert Half, similar to what I did when I introduced myself here, just kind of giving a broad, high level overview of what I do day to day. And then saying, and the reason that, I'm really excited about this position specifically is because XYZ. So you're tying in the role that you're interviewing for using what you've done previously. So you want to start with, the graduation, talk about high level what you've done for the past couple of years, and then tie it into the role that you're interviewing for specifically. And then from there, the client will probably start asking you more specific questions about your day to day, but you're just giving that broad overview. Sometimes people will talk for 20 minutes, after that, tell me about yourself, and they'll go into every single detail of what they've done, which, although that's great, it's not effective for timing wise. So I will say 90 seconds to 2 minutes, high level, and then let them ask more specific questions.
All right. Thank you so much, Kimberly.
Absolutely.
That's a great question.
Yeah.
That's a very great question. We have, it's 12:55. Kimberly, thank you so much for doing this and taking the time out to answer all these amazing
Absolutely.
questions. I know they came rapid and fast and stuff. So we wanted this the type of experience Kimberly and I were planning for, so that you can get the skills, the insights you need to continue on your career journey. Kimberly, she put her email in the chat, and so that you can send her resumes to her. I exclusively did this event so that everybody in here could email her your resumes, and so that Robert Half is an amazing company that can definitely help you out with help you placing yourself in permanent job positions. And also for all the St. John's alum, if you feel free, you can email me your resume, and please write a review about this event, because I want to do some more events like this with Kimberly in the upcoming future. And I like this format, so I open it up with some questions, and you guys can answer all your diehard questions. And our goal is to help you get the most experience, so that when you do get those job interviews, you get to the second and third level, and you definitely get hired. And that will be an amazing accomplishment for both of us, to know that you are hired and you're on your way in your career journey. Thank you guys so much, and have a great afternoon. It's nice outside. Please grab some lunch, and I hope to speak to you soon. Kimberly, any last final words you want to promote? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, well, first, I just want to say thank you so much for having me. I'm definitely looking forward to doing this more often. But I think to everyone on the call, thank you so much for the questions, but also feel free to add me on LinkedIn, connect with me, because every week I share the hottest jobs that we're working on, my team specifically. So like all of the roles that I talked about earlier, I share the ones that are, hot for that week and that are moving. And I try to also share tips. So tips about resumes, tips about job searching, tips about interviewing, whatever I kind of am dealing with and experiencing myself, I try to post about, so that it can help somebody else out. So feel free, connect with me, send me your email, and I will, or send me your resume, and I will get it to either somebody on my team who can help, or I will send it to somebody else in Robert Half who would make more sense for you.
Well, thank you guys so much, and have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thanks
Thank
so
you,
much.
Roger. Thank you, Kimberly. Thank
You're welcome.
Bye.
Thank
Kimberly,
you.
thank you.
Everybody, thank you.